One of the many ways to describe a science fiction franchise is to classify it as soft sci-fi or as hard sci-fi. If you're new to the sci-fi community, you've probably wondered what these terms mean. Or if you do know, you might be wondering where your own stories and favorite franchises stack up. In this video, I'll be defining what these terms mean and give a rundown of where various franchises fit in. Hopefully this can help you understand where your own stories and settings fit on the scale. The hardness of a science fiction work is, essentially, a measure of how realistic it is. Unrealistic settings, like Star Wars or Star Trek, are called soft sci-fi, while settings that are more realistic, like the Expanse or Kerbal space program, are considered hard sci-fi. The most common way to measure this is a system called Mohs scale of science fiction hardness. Based on the Mohs scale used in geology to classify minerals and stuff, this system rates how hard or soft a sci-fi story, franchise, or other kind of work is. If you've peeked in the descriptions of my other videos, for example, you've probably seen me use this scale to denote which types of sci-fi the video is useful for. The scale operates on a 1 to 6 scale, with level 1 being the most out there stuff and level 6 being basically real life. Level 1 is the science fantasy category. These are franchises that are barely attached to reality, where actual magic might be in play and where the focus is more on the rule of cool than on the science. The big one in this category is of course Star Wars, but this can also include things like Starcraft, Warhammer, Destiny, Dune, and more. Level 2, the technobabble area, is for stuff that is more realistic than science fantasy, but only just barely. These settings will often have all sorts of fantastical devices and phenomenon. In terms of realism, these settings are very similar to level 1, except they attempt to claim these are scientific rather than simply saying a wizard did it. The shadow of Star Trek looms large over this category, but this is also shared with lots of other popular franchises such as Transformers, Animorphs, Independence Day, and more. In general, most science fiction franchises fall somewhere in this category, especially the ones that occur in movies and TV. Somewhere in between soft and hard sci-fi is a level 3, Physics Plus. These are settings that still have lots of unrealistic elements, but the author attempts to justify their existence using real scientific laws. Level 3 settings are also distinguishable for maintaining high internal consistency. Even though there are many unrealistic elements, they will have clear established rules and behave consistently across the franchise. Stuff like Battlestar Galactica, Halo, especially the Bungie era, and Stargate are probably the most notable franchises I can think of in this category. As we move into hard sci-fi, we reach level 4, One Big Lie. These settings are mostly realistic, except for one or two major elements that are violating the laws of physics. And usually these changes are intentional in order to explore the implications of if this were true. In many settings, the big lie tends to be something related to FTL or time travel. A lot of my own settings, for example, fall into this category. In my animations, for example, the big lie is the ability to manipulate spatial dimensions. This deviation from physics has a lot of wide-reaching implications, but the primary one is that it allows the ships to use Alcubierre warp drives. Aside from my own stuff, one big lie is extremely common in science fiction literature, such as Ender's Game or the works of Isaac Asimov. Other franchises that fit into this category are 2001, Jurassic Park, Terminator, and The Expanse. Finally, we have level 5, which is full realism. This is sci-fi that is entirely or almost entirely within the realm of science, at least as it was understood at the time. There may be speculative science that is limited to the theoretical, but otherwise it makes every attempt to be grounded. Perhaps the most impactful entry in hard sci-fi is The Martian. However, a few games like Kerbal Space Program or Children of a Dead Earth have also gone to this level of detail. Of course, after that there's level 6, which is basically just real life. One thing to remember is that while this channel generally focuses on the more realistic side of things, you should never feel ashamed of wherever your own settings fall on the scale. Realism is not equal to quality. Sure, Dune is basically just a fantasy set in space, but it is also one of the best sci-fi movies I've ever seen. Stargate may have completely made up stuff like Naquadah and hyperspace, but I still love it to death. On the flip side, there are plenty of stories that follow the science to a T, yet still suck. I should know since I've written a few of them. Point is, hard versus soft sci-fi is merely a matter of taste, and the scale is just to help classify work so people can find what they're interested in. So long as you're marketing your story to the right audience, you should be in the clear. Anyways, best of luck at whatever type of sci-fi you're writing. Until next time, I will see you all Starside. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Starside. If you have another topic you want me to cover, make sure to comment down below and it may just become my next video. If you're interested in more, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Anyway, have a great rest of your day.